This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over effective green pool cleanup strategies with an emphasis on how to protect yourself from some liability out there when you do a green pool cleanup. I'll go over some examples of some group members that have caused some liability issues, and I myself have also had some problems doing green pool cleanups, and I'll give you some advice and tips on how to avoid these problems. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. From me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. First off, I think you should have a waiver the customer signs when you do a green pool cleanup. I didn't used to think this way, but since I've ran into problems myself and I've had group members run into different problems with the green pool cleanup, I think a waiver is a fair thing for you to have them sign. If you email me at david@swimmingpoollearning.com, I have a waiver I can send over to you. Again, that's david@swimmingpoollearning.com, and I'll send you over that green pool cleanup waiver. It's pretty simple. It's in Word format, and you can adjust it in different ways to fit your needs. It's a pretty basic one. So what would be the need for a waiver? Well, there's a lot of problems that can arise with the green pool cleanup. First of all, you can't see the bottom of the pool, so you don't know exactly what's on the bottom or how does it look. And there's been situations where I've done a green pool cleanup myself, and then there was a stain on the bottom, and the customer said to me that wasn't there before. Like, how could they know? I guess that wasn't green all the time, I guess. But I'll touch on that also in a minute on how to prevent kind of this problem as well. The waiver will protect you from that, and I think just having something simple where existing stains or something that you may do in the cleanup process that might stain the pool, and then they won't hold you liable. Now, how far does a waiver go? Well, it's just more psychological, I guess. They can probably still take you to small claims court, and they can go further, but I think the waiver is going to kind of put them in the right mindset that they can't blame you for something that's pre-existing if they were planning on blaming you for something that was pre-existing, if that makes sense. So I'll go back to how you protect yourself with the particular client that you pick. And this is really important. I had a member of my group do a green pool cleanup kind of remotely. It was a tenant that had the house, and the landlord called him to do the cleanup. And of course, he did the cleanup, and then he had all kinds of problems with the landlord accusing him of staining the pool, all kinds of problems with the equipment not working afterwards or not turning on. And sometimes the equipment does get overloaded. So this is also good to have. The waiver does talk about equipment failure during this process. And I've had personally a pump motor fail during a green pool cleanup because I'm running it 24 hours, 48 hours. And it just got so hot because it was an old motor that it overheated and burned out. And then, of course, the customer is saying, well, I mean, it wasn't like that before you started. Now the motor's not working. So this will protect you there. But back to the very beginning, when you get to the green pool cleanup, there's a couple of things you can do to protect yourself immediately. Number one is only do the green pool cleanup if they're going to come on and become a service client of yours. This goes a long way in protecting you because now they're wanting monthly service and they're going to be a client of yours. So right there, there's some relationship being built. And I think that's a critical aspect of the green pool cleanup. I normally would not do a green pool cleanup unless they're going to come on for weekly service. because of the time involved, the hassle. I did a podcast recently on capturing profit, and I kind of did an analysis. If you do a green pool cleanup for $800 and you don't get the monthly service account, you really don't make the maximum profit on that because you're not getting that service account. And it's one of those things where if you are advertising for a green pool cleanup, it's a great way to maximize your ad budget because now you're also marketing for new service accounts at the same time. What I mean by that is that when you clean the pool, it's a green pool cleanup, you would want to say that you're going to want them to be on monthly service with you so that this won't happen again. Most of the time, the people that call you for a green pool cleanup have given up. They've tried themselves. They tried maintaining it, and it's just not working. They may have bought a house and not know anything about the pool and how to take care of it. And so you come in there, clean the pool up, and then take over the service. Now, I had a member of my group ask me, well, how do you charge them for the first month? The green pool cleanup was on the 12th of the month. They want to come on service. I'm going to probably spend a week here cleaning it. So that'll give me one or two service visits. How do I bill them for that? And I told them very simply, if they're going to come on for service, you will include that in the green pool price. And so if you normally charge $800 and they want to come on for service and there's two visits left, then charge them for that and itemize and say, here's the prorated pool service for the rest of the month and the green pool cleanup, plus maybe one more visit for getting the pool back in shape during the green pool cleanup. And that way they know that you're charging them for the first month in that particular green pool cleanup charge, and there's not a separate charge later. It makes it easier, and it also commits them to becoming a service client when you charge them a prorated first month's fee for the service account. So the reason why you want to bring them on for service, not only to maximize and capture that profit of getting that service account really for free, because if you were to purchase an account, you have to pay 10 or 12 times the gross monthly income on that account, and you have to advertise specifically for that account. But if you're doing the green pool cleanup and you get the account, the customer has some built-in loyalty at that moment. And so the chances of them trying to say that you caused this problem or this stain wasn't there before are reduced because now there's some goodwill being built, if that makes sense. If this is a perfect stranger, like my member with the landlord he never met, then you have a problem because there's really no relationship, and they can say that you caused this stain and there's nothing in the future for them because you're not going to do the pool service. So that kind of is a way to minimize somewhat the liability because now they're a service client, and usually that means that they like your service or they're going to keep your service. And of course you have to do a good job with the pool service. That's kind of a given. The other thing you can do is analyze the client carefully before you take on the green pool cleanup. This is a really important aspect of business and of your pool service. Kind of have your antennas up and radar out for problems ahead of time. Because a lot of the times when you're doing something like this, you have to find out why the pool is green. This is a factor that you should know. And so what I ask the client, and simply I ask, what happened to the pool? Why is it green? It's pretty simple. It's something basic. I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't, like, wow, the pool looks terrible. You just say, oh, why is the pool green? And see what they say. Now, if they say, they may be brutally honest. They may say, well, I tried cleaning the pool myself. I just bought the house 6 months ago. Can't handle it. I spent like $500 already on chemicals and it looks like this. I really need help getting the pool cleaned, and I'll definitely, you said you were going to do service afterwards. I'll definitely do that. That's good. That's the honest answer. Sometimes they'll beat around the bush and they'll say like, well, the pump went out and then I finally got it repaired and now the pool turned green, and so I just need to get it back to where it was. Now that's kind of a red flag, because if they didn't repair the pump for 2 or 3 months, the chances of them getting your equipment upgrade or actually being a good paying client kind of goes down in my book. If they neglected their pool to that extent, then they may probably not be the best client to get. So you may want to bid that one really high so that they call someone else to do that pool. And by the way, that's an easy way to get out of a green pool cleanup. You just bid it really high and they'll find someone else. That's what a lot of vendors do when they're busy or don't want the account. They'll just give them a price, So if it's $800, you just say, well, it'll be $1,200 to clean this up. And they'll be like, okay. And then they'll call someone else to get it more reasonable rate, and you don't have to worry about them and deal with it. And once in a while, they'll be like, okay, that's fine, but a lot of times that won't happen. So you want to keep your radar up. Now, if you get to that property and the grass hasn't been cut, you have to walk through waist-high grass to get to the pool. Equipment looks like it's 20 years old and it's patched together. There's some really interesting pictures of equipment patched with duct tape and those black clamps, compression clamps. That's definitely a red flag. I would probably just bid that one, or maybe just tell them a high price and just don't go back to that pool. And you'll find that the majority of the reason why the pool is green is because the customer couldn't handle it and they tried all different things. It could be a combination of something wrong with the equipment at that time and they're trying to turn things around. Sometimes they don't really realize that the filter is important and filter's having issues and that's why it turned that way. There are times also where maybe they tried doing it on their own. They had pool service prior and they couldn't handle it. That happens as well. But kind of keep your antennas up and your radar out there. I guess your spider sense in a way, if for problems, if it feels like this client is going to be a problem or they're not completely honest with you about the green pool. A lot of times if they get cited by vector control, that's what they do here in California. It's called vector control. I'm sure it's like that in other states. They'll actually fly over and they'll take pictures of green pools and then they'll give the client a ticket and give them a time limit to clean it up. And so if you get one of those clients that did get fined or cited by vector control, I would also be leery about that client. That means that they just let their pool lift their pool green long enough to get cited. Sometimes a neighbor will actually look over the fence and turn them in, and this happens as well. They wonder, how did they find out my pool is green? Well, your neighbor didn't like all the mosquitoes coming into their yard, so they called vector control, which you can do, by the way. Anyone can call vector control and report a green pool, and that happens a lot too. Now, if you're getting a client because of that, I'd also be leery about that because they're only getting the pool back in shape because they got cited, and that's not a client you want to capture. So you kind of get the idea that you want to capture the clients that couldn't handle it or tried to get the pool or keep the pool blue but couldn't do it, or there was an equipment failure in combination with that, and then they call you out there. And let me talk a little bit about payment for the green pool cleanup. Now, a lot of times you don't know the client, you don't know the person, they call you or see your truck and have you come over and do it. Maybe you're advertising for green pool cleanups. And so you don't really have any knowledge of if they're going to pay you or not. Now, most people will pay you. That's just kind of the nature of people. They're not going to not pay you for the work you do. It's not that bad out there. But there are certain people out there that won't pay you or find a way to get out of paying you for the green pool cleanup or paying you for the full amount. And, in the waiver, it does say that it may take some time for the pool to clear up. And I've had this happen to me before when I was doing a green pool cleanup. The customer was like, well, I'm not going to pay you because it's taken too long. The pool's still green. It's been like 10 days and it should be blue already. You should have just drained it in that case, or still say something that, in retrospect, they shouldn't have hired you. They should have just drained their pool. And so this is something that can happen, and it may happen, but the thing that you want to do when you do a green pool cleanup is try to get a percentage of the money up front. And the way I phrase this with the customer is like, well, I'm going to have to use some chemicals, and of course I have to go pick them up, and there's some time involved, and I have to clean the filter. And so if you can give me a deposit of, pick a number, 300 or 400, which is like half or more than half, but get something to cover your costs at least, and a little bit of your time in case they don't pay you. It's going to be difficult to get the full payment up front. No one will do that if they don't know who you are. If you were referred to them by a friend or neighbor, a little bit different. You can be a little more loose, I guess. You don't have to worry too much about it, and they may trust you more. And if you ask for a deposit, they'll give it to you right away. Sometimes they'll pay you the full amount up front if they're a friend of somebody that you know. And so that's great too. But you definitely want to get some money for the job. Most contractors, when they do any kind of big job, unless they know the client really well, will want some kind of deposit. Even if they know you really well. I always talk about my general contractor, Tim, that I worked with for many years. We knew each other for a very long time, and we're in the same group at church. And he would always ask me for the first installment of a fee when he did work for me, 1/3 of it up front. Never questioned it. And we had a good relationship for many years. And it's one of those things where this is business. You charge people a deposit for the job, and they should pay you if they want you to do that job. if they're a trustworthy person, they're going to pay you that deposit so you can start the green pool cleanup. And then on the flip side, this does happen sometimes when you do the bid, and I've been guilty of this as well. I'll bid a green pool cleanup, and then I'll find out that, this is actually a lot worse than I thought. And sometimes I do approach the customer and say, this is going to require 2 more filter cleanings, so I'm going to have to charge you. I'll give you a discount, of course, because it was my mistake, but I will have to charge you a little more for the extra filter cleanings. It's really hard, again, to go back after the fact when you do the bid and ask for more money. It's just like anything. If you hired someone to, fix something in your house and they give you a quote and then they come back and say, well, it's going to be $600 more. You don't feel comfortable with that person anymore. You feel like maybe they're trying to, take advantage of you. Same thing when you're doing this, when you're bidding for a green pool and it's a client you don't know. If they're going to come on for monthly service, I don't really worry too much about, making a mistake on the bid. And I really don't pursue them too much for the extra money. But a lot of times you want to make sure you bid the pool correctly. So there's all different levels of green pools, level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bid accordingly. You'll get more experience when you're bidding these things so you don't make this mistake. But I did make a mistake myself at a green pool cleanup several years ago. I didn't really realize how big the pool actually was. It had a diving board and I was kind of inexperienced. I should have known diving board means that it's like at least 9 feet deep. So this is a pretty gigantic pool. Didn't look that big when I bid it, and it's hard to kind of gauge it when it's green anyway. I don't know if you've had that problem, but it turns out to be a really big pool with a really small 48 square foot D filter. And so that thing took like 5 filter cleanings, and it took a ton of chemicals to turn this thing around. And I pretty much, broke even on that pool. I don't think I lost money, but I learned my lesson to make sure I bid accordingly and kind of pad it a little bit so you have a little extra, so that you don't make that mistake. But as you get experience, you're not going to make these bidding mistakes as often, and really look at the pool carefully to make sure that you're not underbidding it, because going back again to ask the client for more money doesn't sound quite right. Even just put yourself in their shoes. They don't know you. You're coming there and asking to raise the bid that you did. So try to get it right the first time. And if you lose a little bit of money, that's kind of a lesson to learn at that point. But definitely take those precautions and make sure that you kind of do your investigation on the customer of why that pool was green, because that is an important factor moving forward. And it could be something that causes you a lot of headache later because you didn't do the initial investigation. And it's something that I definitely recommend you always find out the reason, and you get a deposit, and you use the new waiver that I think is going to really be helpful in protecting you. If you're looking for other podcasts I record, you can find those on my website, swimmingprolearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon, and there'll be 1,600 podcasts there for you to listen to. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a good rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.